Hi everybody, I'm Megan and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Sarah, for volunteering me to speak today. I thought if I would just ignore when she asked me long enough that I could get out of it, but no, it's an honor to speak here, and I am a home group member of Primary Purpose. I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. He has a sponsor, and so on and so forth. I guess I will start with my sobriety date. It is January 17th of 2020. I decided to get sober in a global pandemic. So that is that. Let's see. I want to basically share my experience, strength, and hope with you guys. Like Sarah said, I work a strong program. I would like to think, well, it could always use work, let's be honest. But yeah, I'm involved here. I am the co-chair of CPCPI. I have made some connections at the college. We've done some work there. I'm the vice president, or now president, of the student government there, and I get around. I have some local businesses. Yeah, that's just the basics. I was born June 10th, 1988 in Worthington, Ohio. June 10th, as we all know, is the birth date of AA, so you could say I was born to be an alcoholic. I like sharing that date, I suppose. I was kind of born into alcoholism. My father was an alcoholic. My mother's father, he was an alcoholic. He unfortunately drank himself to death when my mother was, I think he had cirrhosis of the liver. She was in her 20s. He was a World War vet. And so from a young age, and I've had my brothers and sisters, there was 5 of us. My father, I was the only one that shared my mother and my father. Did that make sense? Okay, I'm the only one with my mother and my father. And from a young age, I didn't have a very good family life. I experienced a lot of abandon and trust issues from a young age. My mom left me with my father when I was 3, and my dad left me with my mom when I was around 7. So at that young age, it was very much... what's wrong with me? Nobody wants me. How do I deal with life? So it was just a very tumultuous, rocky road from the beginning. So I learned quick how to numb and not deal with things in a healthy way. So that brought me from Ohio to North Carolina when I was about 7. I grew up in Foxfire, North Carolina. I was in 2nd grade. I was short. I was actually a little bit taller, but it's a stubby little kid with a bowl cut coming into this class in 7th grade, where kids already had friends, and so you can imagine the ease that gave me into finding friends, which was not. So I would naturally crack jokes, which I still do, to fit in. And I just couldn't find my place. I never felt like I fit in. I never felt a part of. I never, I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what was missing. Cut to, about 12 years old, when I was with my mother, she had found another man. He was like my stepfather, and he was a great man, but unfortunately that didn't work out. He had cheated on my mom and had left us, and what this cushy life that I thought was, I developed some friendships, and was the head pro of the golf shop, and she was an accountant, and this life that I had kind of always wanted, the picture perfect mom, dad, and dog. And one of my older brothers, we were all living there. I was on the golf team, and it was different, but he left and that all fell apart. I was just going into high school, and I was going in, to depression, and that's kind of when that first drink came into the picture. Actually, my first drink, I was 10 years old at a Pinehurst Christmas tree lighting, and I was bugging my mom's friend for her glass of wine because everybody else was drinking and everybody was having fun, and I drank and I spit it out, and I was like, that was god-awful disgusting. Why would anybody want to drink that? And then I was 12, and I had kind of an experience with some mind-numbing substances before alcohol. I was 12, and I went for an ingrown toenail to the doctor, and the doctors gave me a prescription for pain medicine for my ingrown toenail, and narcotics for a 12-year-old for the ingrown toenail sounds reasonable, makes a lot of sense. Back in the day, that's when opiates were on the rise for that. And my mom had just lost the stepfather. She was just taking care of me. My brother had moved away, so she was working all the time and said, here, nobody really knew about this stuff back then, and here, take your medicine. I'm going through depression. I'm taking these. I was like, man, these make me feel great because I don't feel anything. And I kept getting ingrown toenails on purpose to keep getting these medications to the point where they removed half of my big toe. If you guys want to see it later, I'll show it to you. So that was my intro. They finally caught on to me, by the way, and that stopped that. So I found some friends going into high school. We'd go to the bowling alley. I'd tell one friend, we're going to this house. And I think that was I remember that first weekend. We're going to go to her house. And she told her we were going to my house. And we went to the bowling alley. We had all of these different airplane bottles of, sorry, Mom, if I never told you this. She's on Zoom, by the way. You're going to probably hear a lot of things I never told you. But we went to the bowling alley with a bunch of airplane bottles, and we probably paid. There was this homeless guy we used to pay money and buy him some beer. He would get us beer, and we drank it all, and we ended up from Pinehurst, ended up in Rockingham. I blacked out. There's a bunch of older guys around. I don't know what happened or who happened and how we even made it back to Pinehurst the next day. I think she ended up calling her dad. But that was my first experience. And man, let me tell you, it was amazing. I felt on top of the world, and I felt like I wanted to do that all the time. And I did every chance that I got. I started drinking, and I started smoking, and I started skipping school, and my mom had no clue what to do with me. She did the best that she could. I started going in and out of mental hospitals a lot. I went to my first one when I was 13, around when all this started happening. She took me to a therapist, and the first time I ever went to one, they put me in an inpatient hospital. And I was there for a couple weeks, and they put me on a depression medication, and that just started this round. Then I would become suicidal from that medication, and they took me back to the hospital, and then they put me in another inpatient. From 13 to 18, I was hospitalized 8 times and diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality, like just the whole shebang, and put on probably 16 different medications at a time at 16 years old, and told all these things that I was, and drinking and drugging and running away. I was in a group home for 2 years because I was tired of going in and out of these hospitals. I chose to put myself in a group home at 16. So I was just self-will run riot, like the book says, and I just didn't know what to do. I thought that this was what I was supposed to do. I have older brothers who lived this and were worse off than me, so I thought what I was doing was normal. I didn't think too much of it. I had a lot of good people in my life throughout the way that would share little nuggets of wisdom, but nothing ever stuck. I went to this this alternative school when I was in one of the group homes, and I had an English teacher that really tried to make an impact on me, and still sticks to me with me to this day. And I had a couple of people throughout there that would just try to say, Megan, you got something different. You're wasting your life. And boy, if I would have listened back then, But yeah, that's 16, 18. 18 years old, I'm getting ready to get out of the group home. I had a full ride to college, to art school, paid for through financial aid. And I said, I've been held down by the man. I need to take a year off from school. Let me just do that. I'm good. I'll take it easy and then I'll go to school. So I get out of the group home, I come back here to Moore County, and that was the stupidest thing I could have ever done. By 20, I know we're supposed to keep it limited to the drugs, but this is part of my story, and I feel like it would do a disservice if I didn't. So one of the most degrading things I ever did was I was, by 20, smoking crack cocaine and doing everything and anything, and alcohol was always my best friend along with everything. Like, I didn't not. Like, I was always a blackout drinker. I couldn't ever turn it off. That was my ride or die buddy, all that I could remember. And so I was kicked out. My mom kicked me out, and she took me to Daymark, and they told me that I was going to die if I didn't stop. So my mom took me to work with her. She worked at Walmart, and this is when they had Guitar Hero out. And I sat there on the floor of Walmart drinking 211 Steel Reserves, and I think she gave me some of her Xanax, just enough to get me over to, you'll like this one, Haley, and just enough to get me to Butner later on. And she takes me to the rehab and drops me off, where I somehow snuck Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the book, and read that in detox in rehab. It was a complete wreck. And and that was my detox, because I was totally ready to get sober and change. So I was in detox for a few days, and I think I was in there longer than most people are. I don't even remember checking in. I remember having a pocket full of something and popping that at the water fountain, and next thing I know, I'm fighting off people in a nightgown. I don't know. So that was my rehab story. I remember briefly getting introduced or being made to go into AA or NA when I was in there, but it didn't stick. I got picked up, and the person who picked me up from rehab had a bottle of wine, and I called my buddy. And my thing was, I'm just going to slow down. As long as I'm not smoking crack, and just drinking a little and smoking a little, I'll be fine. That's how our brains work, right? So that didn't last very long. By 22, something happened in my life that was pretty big. My older brother, like I said, I have older siblings. I'm the youngest of 5, if you couldn't tell. And my oldest sister, she's 22 years older than me. So there's a huge age gap there. My mom had me when she was 41. So it's just, kind of, I don't know if I was necessarily unexpected, but anyway, I digress. So I'm 22 or 21, and get a phone call one day that my brother had been murdered in a home invasion in Ohio. And my brother is like the coolest guy. This is the one that really didn't, when he was younger, he partied, but he's a hardworking dude, construction worker. Like, I looked up to him as the one who, he kind of traveled everywhere and worked, but he had it kind of together. And he didn't know a stranger, and every time he walked in the room, he lit up the place. And it was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I can't keep living like this. And so I decided to do the whole change where you're living thing. And I hopped a Greyhound bus from here to Ohio with a suitcase and a backpack and lived with my sister, who I didn't really know, who's 22 years older than me. And that was an interesting trip. I remember playing rummy on a trash can lid with a homeless guy. He bought me a 211 Steel Reserve and a pack of peanut M&Ms. I don't remember who won the game, but that was a fun story. I never meet a stranger either. I like to take that after my brother, but I get there, and for a month, I manage not to really drink or smoke pot so I can get a job. My sister buys me a car. I get the job, and then I'm out at the bars. I find my local spot, my watering hole, and I'm off to the races. I'm never at her house. Within a year, she's leaving a letter on my bed telling me I need to get out. Typing a letter there, and I'm like, what's wrong with her? How could she kick me out? So close to my brother's year anniversary of his death. Like, how ungrateful, is she? All that I've done being here, destroying her life. So I go find some other victim to live with. No, I'm just kidding, kind of. No, I found a relationship that ended up being not healthy. That was abusive. I ended up getting DUIs while I'm there. I lose cars. I did nothing that I set out to do. I come back here when I was about 24 with my tail between my legs. Out of that abusive relationship, and I'm at a loss again. I'm still drinking all the time, got nothing to show for nothing, and I go and I do what I do. I find some dead-end job, and I go to my local watering holes here, and I ended up getting into another relationship, and this was kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde. We hid it from everybody pretty well, but we ended up getting really bad into opiates and drinking, and ended up selling everything that I own, and just going down a rabbit hole. And this brings me to I'm about 27 years old, and this relationship just kind of tore through me. There was no trust, no anything. It wasn't anything good, but I was in love with this guy. That's kind of where it brought me to, and I'm like, where is this gonna go? There's nothing here. There's nothing in my life. I'm 27 years old. What am I doing with my life? I don't have any goals, any aspirations. Almost 10 years has went by since I said I was going to go to college or do anything with my life. And I keep running from place to place. And it was just kind of this weird aha moment where something was tugging at me. And I was never one to believe in God. Like, I thought it was a man-made religion. Like, I maybe danced around the ideas here and there, but I was against it. And I came to this moment where I just kind of broke. And I had nothing. Everything was gone. And I was like, I gave up to this idea of the universe. This was November of 2015. And I told him, I was like, we need to quit doing the drugs and the drinking. And that works well for me, but not for we. You can't make anybody else do anything. So I quit cold turkey. I don't know how I did it. I went and got auricular acupuncture. I don't know if any of you guys know what that is. It's for like PTSD people. I had like these gold pegs sticking out of my ears. I went and did like the craziest stuff. I went and got a therapist, which actually to this day, she's still my therapist from 2000 then to 2015, and she has been a godsend, let me tell you. But that was the start of my journey, the end of 2015, and I had quit the drugs, and I quit the drugs November. I quit or October. I quit the drinking November, and I was still smoking pot though, because I'm gonna be 80 in my rocking chair smoking pot, because that's my medicine, you know, and because that'd just be stupid to quit that. So I get to about February, and I am a nutcase at this point, and I can't stop crying. I can't stop taking this guy back and then not, and then I'm just all over the place. I'm working a cleaning job for a lady getting paid like $8 an hour, who is also a nutcase. Anyway, so it comes to about February, the end of January, February, and my friend who I used to party with takes me out to lunch one day, and she goes, Megan, I need to tell you something. And we're at 195 here in town, which is a great place to eat, by the way. And she goes, I need to tell you something. Now, this friend, she's like, I've always known her as the person that discovers everything, every religion and everything. So I didn't know if she was going to tell me she found some guy or some like new religion. And she goes, it's Jesus. I found Jesus. And I was like, oh my God, Lauren. I was like, I love you, so I'll let you tell me whatever you got to say, but like, that's about it. I was like, I don't. And then she said something that resonated with me that day, and she said, she was like, I want to tell you, it's about a relationship. It's not about religion. It's not about what our parents tried to shove down our throats. It's not about, any of that stigma you think you might have on it. And something that day about her saying it's about a relationship, it's not about religion, stuck with me. I was driving home, and at this point I'd given up to the idea that there was something bigger than me that was pulling me away from that life. But I definitely did not acknowledge it as God or Jesus. And so I'm driving home, and I drive to my mom's house, and I go in, and I'm like, Ma, I think that I might believe in God. And I think she said something to the effect of, are you high? And I'm like, no, like I think that, and I had quit, I remember February 3rd or something along that line, I quit smoking pot. She has pictures that she took of me. I have a cigarette hanging out of my mouth, and I'm in sweatpants and a shirt, and I'm smashing my bongs with a hammer, and I'm putting all of a half ounce of weed and tons of other stuff in a barrel, and I'm lighting it on fire, and then I'm freaking out that I'm getting high off of the fumes. Because I quit smoking pot maybe 2 weeks before I did all this. I was just holding on to it just in case. But then I had this big moment, I was asking her, do we blow it up with fireworks? I wanted to go out with a big bang. I'm coming up with the most insane, do we tie it to a brick and throw it in the pond in the backyard? So I decided to go with the hammer and the burning of a barrel. But yeah, so that was on February 3rd around there. And I remember February 4th, I'm driving down the road after I had this conversation with my friend, and I said, I'm driving to work down 211. I said, God, if you're real, I need you to show yourself to me. And I'm waiting for this moment to happen. Nothing happens, and I go to work. And I'm driving back down the road that same day, and I get all these texts from my, my friend's mom, who I just ended up splitting up with, and there are all these texts of her worried about him, and I pull over into the park where it's the same place where I was driving that morning, and I'm saying maybe it's a sign, trying to send her some relief in a text message, and I look up, and there's this man walking towards me with a 200-pound wooden cross on his back. And I'm like, I look to my left and my right, and I'm like, is this even, real? And this is the point in my life where I start to find some spirituality. And I get out of my car, I start talking to this guy, and he was like, it's no mistake. God told me to come here at 4:30 instead of 2:30 when I originally wanted to come here. Can I pray with you? And I was so freaked out in this moment. And, other things kept happening. He told me to call him. I called him a week later when I was sitting outside Nature Zone. And because at this point I had so much anxiety. You guys know me, I'm a people person. But I couldn't even sit inside Nature Zone and eat. I would get my lunch and sit in my car. So I see this guy's note. I call him, and I'm like, hey, this is that girl that you called. And he didn't know I'm sitting outside Nature Zone. He's like, I'm on my way to Nature Zone. Where are you? And these little moments just kept happening. He ended up inviting me to his church, and for the next 3 years, I stayed sober through the church, through through finding a spiritual solution. I ended up going on mission trips. I went to Haiti, Africa, Honduras. Like, I flipped completely. Like, it was different. And I did a lot of the stuff that AA talks about, where you search yourself, you find that you take a personal inventory, you take a deep look at your wrongs. I went back to my sister, and I paid her for that car that she bought me, and I told her what a stupid sister I was. And I asked her to forgive me, and I did that with my mom. I did that with a lot of people in my life, where I did some really crappy things to them. I did a lot of work through therapy to find out a lot about myself, a lot of those hurts from my childhood, a lot of those things that I was still holding on to that I didn't need to. However, I made it those 3 years, but then a lot of other stuff started to happen that I wasn't really equipped for. My mom, I ended up getting shoulder surgery, and let me see where I want to go with this. I ended up getting shoulder surgery about 2.5 years into that sobriety period, and I went to the doctor and I said, look, I don't want any kind of medicines. I'm like dead set on this. And I talked to people about being an alcoholic and addict, but I don't really know if at that point I really knew what that meant. I think I had my own ideas of what that was, but I don't think I really knew. And I told my doctor, I said, I don't want any drugs. I don't want any of this stuff that's going to make me, be triggered or want anything. And so he gave me, I didn't take the nerve block for my shoulder, like I didn't take the extra, or I did the nerve block, but I didn't take the extra medicine that calms you down before. And he gave me tramadol, which he assured me would not trigger anything, but triggered something in me. And I wasn't equipped for that. So I ended up taking that to excess over time. My mom ends up needing a surgery, and some things happened with her to where she ended up getting like a hospital dementia and had to go into a nursing home, and that freaked me out because she's been my constant, she's been there, and I wasn't prepared for that, or I was sleeping next to her at a nursing home and the one taking care of her, and that broke me down real bad. So my therapist enlightened me that I relapsed on those tramadol when I'm not eating to feel the effect and taking more than I need to. So that came to December of 2018, and I told myself, because I had pastor sons saying to me, one day, Megan, you'll be able to sit down on the beach next to me and have a beer. Like, God has removed this alcoholism and this addiction from you. And I was like, you're an idiot. But then I just started to be like, well, yeah. Like, yeah, maybe he has. Maybe I can. So I told myself, you guys have heard me say this before, I'll go to the bar and I'll talk to people about Jesus and I'll drink wine. And I'll test this theory. It worked fine one night, but the next night I was blackout drinking. And all the year before I came into these rooms, I was blackout drinking, talking to people about Jesus and doing other things in bathrooms. So that doesn't work, so don't do it. So I actually ended up, I actually ended up meeting a girl through the church who I knew went to AA, and at the end of that year, I told myself I was going to go to Puerto Rico. Another one of those situations where you're going to go on vacation, not go on vacation. So I told myself I'd go to Puerto Rico, and I'm going to get sober in Puerto Rico. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to journal every morning, and I'm going to take walks and pray and get it back. I'm gonna get it back, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna get it all back. I went there and I made Coronita bottles and did a bunch of explicit things. So it doesn't work. Don't go to Puerto Rico and get sober. I came back and I made it about a week. Got blackout drunk. I think, yeah, my best friend's on here. That was her birthday. Sorry about that, Chelsea. And I tore apart her apartment. Blackout drunk. That was either before or after. I don't know. And that was my final straw. And I sat dry, miserable, sober for about 2 months and finally reached out to someone that I knew was in AA. And I was like, I gotta try something different. And that's where I realized I missed the mark. I found a spiritual solution at some point or another, but I did not address the physical and mental part, which is alcoholism. That's where 12 Steps comes in. That's where this program comes in. And it is very real and very important. When I first came into these rooms, I thought that I was going to come in here and find God again and be fine. I didn't want to do any steps really, or I wasn't really prepared for that part. I thought, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to find God, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go back to church, and then I'm going to go back to life as normal. I wasn't prepared to come in here and find the fellowship and the solutions that are very real, and it's amazing. Since coming in, I've learned a lot more about myself that I thought I already knew. I was very bullheaded. I'm still very bullheaded and stubborn. I think that's the beauty of this program, is that it's kind of like an onion, and you keep just unveiling more and more about yourself. And so yeah, in this past just a year, like I said, I'll have a year on the 17th. I've learned a lot. I'm on my second sponsor. My first one fired me. I'm just kidding. No, it's this program will give you so much if you work it. But that's kind of the point of my message is, I'm not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And there's kind of two sides to the coin in here. It's the spiritual and then that mental and physical obsession that we have to address. And it depends upon helping, another alcoholic. Yeah, when we come in here, we're focusing on ourselves and our recovery. I noticed a lot that there was some things I had to address, but when it boils down to it, at the end of the day, I get a lot out of my sobriety when I help the newcomer, and when I'm focusing on, not what I need, but sharing my message to potentially help somebody else. That's that first tradition which we talked about last week, that our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. And the fellowship in these rooms, the friendships that I've learned in here, taking what people say in here to you. I've had some people tell me some things about myself that I necessarily wouldn't want to hear, but it's for the benefit of all of us. I don't think anybody comes in here with any kind of malicious intent, to make you go out and get drunk. We're all rooting for each other, and our common goal is to keep all of us sober. We all come from checkered pasts and have all done some pretty crummy stuff, but if we can all take this a day at a time and help each other stay sober, that's the main thing. I don't know if I have too much else to say. I'm a work in progress. What I do day to day, I guess, right now, I just only started utilizing my sponsor about a week ago, so I call her about 7 times a day now. No, I have a therapist that I see, like I told you that, I use a lot of different things. I journal every day. I try my best to keep a gratitude list. I've tried a few different things, the alphabet gratitude list, a numbered one. It kind of changes for me. I think that's okay. I I think I'm fairly new in recovery, even when I'm going to say when I'm 30 years sober, that I'll be new in recovery then. I think that hopefully every day is new in recovery in that aspect. I do some readings. I pray as much as I can, which is still not enough. I try my best to call other people and think about other people. When somebody calls on me, that's my favorite part. When other people call me and ask for help. I love being there for other people. That's kind of always been my heart to a fault. Putting other people's needs before myself. And if anybody ever needs anything, please call me, because it takes me outside of myself. But yeah, living this, I look forward to living this sobriety one day at a time. And I know that no matter all that stuff that I came from, God really has giving me the opportunity to do something different. He's given each of us the opportunity to do something different. And it's being able to look past all that stuff that we came from, and ultimately just, helping somebody else. That's what it boils down to. But anyways, I think there's like 15 minutes left. I could stand up here and sing for you guys or talk or, whatever. But that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.